Welcome to the Nifty Noon podcast. We're diving into, well, a really pivotal week, a week that seems to have fundamentally shifted how institutions, regulators, even tech giants are looking at digital assets. Yeah, the 4 editions of our newsletter, Nifty Noon, from September 15th right through to the 19th, they felt like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. We're here to put that puzzle together for you, give you the shortcut. So if you just need the super quick version, the TLDR for the last 5 days or so, here it is. Big Money basically declared Solana season is back, treating SOL almost like a treasury asset. Then Coinbase did a complete 180 on whether its layer 2 base would get its own token. Hint, it might. And Google just sort of quietly dropped this protocol validating stablecoins for AI commerce. And maybe the biggest headline grabber, the SEC basically opened the floodgates for crypto ETFs. We saw XRP and even Dogecoin ETFs launch, and they did surprisingly well, really well, actually.
It really was a monumental week. You saw these major steps towards, real institutional integration alongside much needed regulatory clarity kind of happening all at once. So our mission here in this deep dive is pretty straightforward. We want to unpack these 4 big shifts chronologically. We'll synthesize the source material from the newsletters to give you the context, the why behind it all. By the end of this chat, you should feel pretty well equipped, definitely well informed on these really crucial changes.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this, starting with September 15th and this season of SOL. It felt like more than just prices going up. It seemed like real institutional conviction, right? What did the sources say was driving that huge push?
Yeah, conviction is the right word. The main drivers were scale and, like you said, institutional confidence. We saw Mike Novogratz over at Galaxy Digital describing Solana as, I think the quote was, tailor-made for financial markets.
Tailor-made? Why?
Because of its capacity. He cited its ability to handle this almost astronomical figure up to 14 billion transactions a day.
14 billion. Daily.
Daily. That's not just a theoretical number. It's a direct pitch to financial institutions.
Yeah.
They need that kind of throughput for, structured products and high-frequency operations.
Right. 14 billion transactions definitely gets institutional attention, and it really sets Solana apart. But okay, it wasn't just talk, was it? The money followed pretty fast.
Oh, immediately. The sources we looked at showed just unprecedented capital flows. Galaxy Digital themselves, they picked up over $700 million worth of SOL in just 2 days.
Wow. 700 million in 48 hours.
Exactly. And this wasn't just, speculative day trading. It was tied to a strategic investment they made in a company called Forward Industries, their plan to build the world's largest publicly traded Solana treasury.
A publicly traded Solana treasury.
Yeah, so what's really fascinating, the implication here, is that these huge, very public buys from institutions like Galaxy, they're signaling a really profound shift. SOL might be moving into this potential core treasury asset role, kind of like how Bitcoin and Ethereum are often viewed now.
And that conviction wasn't just a 2-day blip, right? The sources showed this buying kept going through the week.
That's right. We noted in the newsletter that Galaxy bought another 1.2 million SOL just a day or so later. That was about $306 million more.
Okay.
And maybe even more significantly, Pantera Capital confirmed that SOL is now their biggest position. They're holding $1.1 billion worth on their books.
$1 billion in SOL for Pantera.
$1 billion. And they also co-led a huge PIPE deal that's a private investment in public equity, over $500 million into Helios, which is another Solana-backed treasury vehicle. So you put all that together, it shows that this sophisticated capital, the smart money, sees Solana not just as some token to trade, but as like the actual execution layer for future financial systems. They're putting billions behind its infrastructure.
Okay, so you've got this huge institutional validation, and that lines up with a pretty powerful technical picture too, doesn't it? I remember seeing analyst Ollie Martinez pointing to a big pattern breakout for SOL.
Yeah, the classic cup and handle pattern, but on a multi-year scale.
Yeah.
And based on that breakout, Martinez projected a, pretty ambitious technical target, $1,314.41 per SOL.
Over $1,300. That sounds incredibly bullish. Was there anything in the sources offering a counterpoint? Or is everyone just convinced it's going straight up?
Well, the technicals look strong, definitely. Yeah. But the sources do suggest the usual risks are still there, Network stability is always a concern with high-throughput chains. And, of course, there's regulatory scrutiny, especially for anything that isn't Bitcoin. But I think the sheer size of these institutional bets, Pantera Galaxy, suggests that for them at least, the potential upside right now is really outweighing those perceived risks.
Makes sense. And it wasn't just the big players, right? The ecosystem itself seems healthy. Our newsletter highlighted some high-flying assets on Solana, showing user activity is strong, too.
Exactly. You need both. We mentioned PUMP, that's from Pump.fun, hitting a new all-time high, $2.5 billion market cap,
Yeah.
and it had the biggest 24-hour gain among the top 100 cryptos at that point.
Right.
And then there was PunkStrategy, that protocol with the interesting deflationary model, using 10% of trading fees to buy CryptoPunks, then buy back and burn its own token, PNKSTR.
Yeah, kind of innovative.
It all just shows that Solana's ecosystem isn't only attracting top-tier capital, it's also fostering this high-volume, innovative activity from users and developers on the ground.
Which I guess connects back. It shows the ecosystem is maybe ready for that institutional capital you mentioned. It can handle serious DeFi and also the more retail-focused speculative stuff side by side.
Precisely. It signals a certain maturity.
Yeah.
Which actually brings us neatly to September 16th and that really interesting ideological shift, maybe even a reversal at Coinbase regarding their Layer 2 base.
Oh, yeah. The token question. They'd been pretty firm for a while. No plans for a token. So what happened? What drove this big pivot?
Right. It was Jesse Pollack, Base's creator, who announced it at their Basecamp event. He basically said they are now actively exploring a native token. For years, the line was that Base would succeed just based on Coinbase's brand, its ecosystem, its ease of use.
Which it has, to be fair.
It absolutely has. But this reversal seems to acknowledge that for true decentralization and to really maximize opportunities for builders on the platform, which they say is the goal, a native token, is almost necessary. It helps align incentives, accelerate growth, especially when you look at how competitive the L2 space is becoming.
So it's like an admission that even with a behemoth like Coinbase behind you, a token is still the ultimate growth hack in the space.
You can definitely frame it that way. And let's look at the numbers that probably gave them the confidence to even consider this pivot.
Okay.
Base is already a giant. It's the second largest L2 by TVL. Total value locked, over $5 billion now.
Yeah.
Only Arbitrum is bigger by that metric.
$5 billion locked up. That's serious.
It is. But here's maybe the more compelling stat. Raw user activity. Base is crushing its competitors in transaction volume. We're talking 328 million transactions in the last 30 days. Compare that to Arbitrum's 77 million.
328 million versus 77 million. Wow, that's a huge difference in actual usage.
Massive difference. It's undeniable proof of sort of mass adoption happening on Base, which ironically might have been easier to achieve without the complexity of a token at first.
Right, keep it simple initially.
Exactly. And that huge existing user base, that volume, is what makes the timing of this token exploration so strategic. The immediate implication for you, the listener, is pretty clear, isn't it?
Right.
Just the possibility of a Base token, even if it's early days, is going to be a massive magnet for activity.
Ah, the airdrop hunters.
Precisely.
Right.
You'll see users aggressively positioning themselves, transacting, bridging assets, using protocols on Base, all hoping for a potential airdrop, which of course will drive those activity metrics even higher. It's a self-reinforcing cycle.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Moving on then to September 17th. This is where things get, well, really interesting, I think. Bridging the worlds of AI and crypto infrastructure, Google announced this new open source thing, the Agentic Payments Protocol, or AP2. Walk us through that. What is it, and why is it such a big deal?
Yeah, this one felt foundational. It's monumental because Google is essentially validating stablecoins as core corporate infrastructure, not just some niche crypto asset. AP2 is designed to let autonomous AI applications think AI agents seamlessly engage in commerce, sending and receiving money without any human needing to click a button.
So, like, my AI assistant pays for a service from another AI automatically.
Exactly that kind of scenario. Instant machine-to-machine value transfer.
Okay, cool concept. But how did the payments actually happen? Are they using, like, traditional bank transfers behind the scenes?
No, and that's the key point. The sources are really clear. The protocol is built to use U.S. dollar-pegged stablecoins as the payment rail.
Stablecoins.
Specifically, AP2 lets these AI agents pay each other, and the tech enabling that stablecoin rail is called BUY 402. Integrating stablecoins means the transactions can be instant, transparent, and settled directly on-chain, bypassing traditional finance rails entirely.
And Google didn't just cook this up in a lab somewhere, right? The collaboration list was pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, they brought together a serious coalition. This wasn't a solo effort. It was developed alongside Coinbase, there they are again, the Ethereum Foundation, and over 60 other organizations.
60? Who else?
Including some massive names from traditional finance and enterprise tech. Think American Express, Salesforce, Etsy.
Amex, Salesforce, Etsy. Wow.
Yeah. When you see players like that aligning on a protocol like this, it tells you it's not just a crypto experiment. It's designed for real-world, enterprise-level deployment.
Okay, so let's connect the dots for the listener. Why should we care that Google is using stablecoins for AI payments? What's the big takeaway?
The takeaway is that Google, arguably the leader in AI development, is effectively enshrining stablecoins as a core piece of infrastructure for the whole emerging AI-driven economy. This paves the way for truly autonomous machine-to-machine commerce on a massive scale. It suggests that the next generation of digital infrastructure AI will likely rely on digital assets for its monetary layer.
Skipping the old systems entirely?
Exactly. It really solidifies stablecoins' position, potentially, as the default settlement layer for global automation in the future. It's a huge validation.
Okay, that is a big deal. All right, finally, let's tackle the major regulatory news that dominated the end of the week. Starting with the SEC's decision on September 18th, the one that seemed to open the ETF floodgates.
Yeah, this was genuinely a landmark moment for crypto regulation in the U.S. The SEC approved generic listing standards for crypto ETPs, exchange-traded products. Before this, trying to get an altcoin ETP approved was, frankly, a brutal, long process. It could take up to 240 days, and usually it just ended in rejection.
Right, it felt almost impossible for anything beyond Bitcoin or maybe Ether. So what changed? How does it work now?
The new framework means that compliant applications, ones meeting these new generic standards, could potentially be approved in 75 days or less.
75 days, down from 240. That's huge.
It's a massive acceleration. And SEC Chairman Paul Atkins was pretty explicit, stating the goal was to reduce barriers for digital asset products wanting access to regulated markets. This instantly changed the whole mood, didn't it? It made it clear that much wider range of altcoin ETFs could actually hit the market soon.
And we didn't have to wait long at all to see the impact. The very next day, September 19th, we saw the launch of the RX Osprey XRP ETF, ticker 6RPR, and a Doge ETF, Doge. And the volume, I have to say, I was pretty surprised by the volume figures.
You and everyone else, I think. They were genuinely shocking. The collective volume for just those two on day one was nearly $55 million.
$55 million on day one for XRP and Doge ETFs.
Yep. 6RPR, the XRP one, traded $37.7 million all by itself. Bloomberg's ETF guru, Eric Balchunas, called it shockingly solid.
Shockingly solid. Yeah, that feels about right.
It just confirms there was this enormous pent-up demand, likely from both retail and maybe some institutional investors who wanted regulated exposure to these specific altcoins, but couldn't easily get it through their normal brokerage accounts before.
Okay, but there's a slight technical point here, right? A regulatory nuance about how these got approved so quickly. They weren't exactly the same as the spot Bitcoin or Ether ETFs, were they? Can you explain the difference between the 40 Act and the 33 Act?
Yeah, that's a crucial detail. Most of the big crypto products we talk about, like the spot Bitcoin ETFs, they fall under the Securities Act of 1933. That's the 33 Act. That usually requires the issuer to physically hold the underlying crypto.
Okay.
These new XRP and Dogecoin funds, though, they used a different, faster pathway. The Investment Company Act of 1940 or the 40 Act.
The 40 Act. So what does that mean for how the ETF actually works?
Practically speaking, it means these 40 Act funds, in this specific case, don't hold the actual XRP or DOGE directly in the U.S.
Ah, okay. So how do they track the price?
They typically track the price using subsidiary structures, often involving foreign exchange-traded products or derivatives. It lets them kind of sidestep some of the trickier U.S. regulatory hurdles around direct custody of certain assets.
Got it. So faster approval, but maybe a slightly more complex structure behind the scenes compared to a direct spot holding.
Exactly. It's a trade-off.
Yeah.
But clearly one the market was happy to make, judging by the volume.
And then, just to cap off this regulatory shift, the SEC also approved the Grayscale Digital Large Cap Fund ETF, right? Which holds a basket of cryptos.
That's right. That one offers exposure to a mix: Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, SOL, Cardano. Getting that multi-asset fund approved further signals the SEC's, let's say, more accommodating stance now towards diversified crypto products, not just the two biggest coins.
So stepping back and looking at the whole week, September 15th to 19th.
Yeah, if you piece together everything we discussed from the newsletters, you see this really clear, powerful convergence happening. You've got massive, sustained institutional capital validating high-performance ecosystems like Solana. You have regulatory clarity finally arriving, paving the way for mainstream retail investment products. You see strategic corporate moves like the base token pivot adapting to the market reality. And then you have tech giants like Google actively integrating stablecoins into the fundamental infrastructure of the next big thing, the AI economy. It's all happening at once.
So tying it all together, what does this really mean for you, the listener, trying to make sense of it all?
I think the fundamental shift the story this week tells is this simultaneous validation. Institutions are endorsing speed and scale, that's the Solana story. And regulators are finally acknowledging the maturity of certain altcoins, that's the ETF story. That combination seems to be rapidly pulling digital assets into the central nervous system of global commerce. And Google's AI payment rail is maybe the clearest example of that. I agree. The narrative that digital assets are just purely speculative tokens you trade back and forth, that narrative feels definitively over after a week like this. The convergence we saw signals that crypto is really transitioning now into becoming essential critical infrastructure across multiple major industries. It's moving from the fringe right into the foundation.
Well, that's certainly a powerful takeaway. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, really getting into the weeds of the latest shifts covered in our newsletter, Nifty Noon. If you found this breakdown useful, we definitely invite you to follow Nifty Noon on X and Substack. It's the best way to stay ahead of these kinds of monumental developments as they happen. We'll catch you next time.